Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you from wherever you are listening in from. It is your host Diego Ife, and you are listening to the Boon podcast. Again, I'm on a roll here. This is going to be my third poem, but I think I should just give a bit more information as to what inspired this particular poem. It wasn't literally just restricted to the daily challenge series that I have ongoing that I uploaded a moment ago. This is more to do with mental health, men's mental health, broader mental health. And one thing I will say is this: it's a discussion I've noticed in the last few years has become more and more prevalent day by day, whether it's Twitter, IG, just everyday discourse, online, offline, you name it. And I've always found it a bit peculiar, to be honest, just because we know that it's an interesting topic, but for some reason, more recently, it has really sort of taken front and center. I wonder if that's to do with the daily rigors, living in this kind of system. Some may call it neoclassical capitalist. I don't think it's as straightforward as that, but just this system we live in where there's a lot of pressure to rise to certain material challenges, keep up with the Joneses, but this time on steroids, right? Many people seeking their worth through things which, funnily enough, will actually devalue them in the longer run in terms of their health, both physical and mental health. And key thing is balance. I'll sort of elaborate a bit more after I read my poem that inspired this train of thought. But in any case, this particular piece is called Sanity is an Aspiration, and I'll dive right into it, okay? So, mental health is getting more and more attention. Taboo as it is, it deserves more than a mention. Acting as if everyone has their shit together is mere pretension, but I understand the apprehension. Part of fearing so-called mad people is, for many, projection. Fearful of being in such a state, what an unwanted situation. But the answer is not a subjectivation. After all, none of us knows what is going on in any other's mind. So where possible, we should try to be kind. Those that are kind are hard to find. Hence the idea of a good deed for the day. Should kindness be so sparing? Is there another way? The coldness of everyday life has many despairing, and winter has come. I wonder how we're all faring. At least now mental health is being prioritized, but attention to it can never be outsized. They say too much of something is a bad thing, but not mental health when in life you want to win. No matter how small, no matter how great, we can all gain. It's never too late. Keep plugging away. Rome wasn't built in a day, but building healthy habits surely is the way. And I should be wrapping up as I've said much of what there is to say. In closing, we're all mad, but for this we shouldn't be sad. It takes just one traumatic event and it can tip anyone over the edge. Hopefully not thinking to end it from a window ledge. Prioritize mental health, make a personal pledge. Let's chase the best situation and the healthiest cognition, but never forget sanity is an aspiration. So, a key part of why I wrote this poem and had my thoughts is that, again, like I said in the opening sort of minute and a bit of this upload, for some reason, how do I put this? It's really weird because for me, it's being discussed, that's mental health is being discussed more commonly, more frequently. But at the same time, a lot of the people I've observed online and even offline will speak about how important it is, but then denigrate another person who is clearly struggling mentally, right? And in many cases, even kind of exacerbate it. Seeing someone that's down, there's a very, very, very evident lack of regard and empathy for them. And, this is not to condemn any one person because I think we're all imperfect. We're all trying to, in one way or another, attain some good balance, if you will. Perhaps, between making ourselves feel a sense of contentment and kind of making a contribution. Many of us are the products of, let's just say, maybe not the healthiest of backgrounds, or been in the healthiest of environments. And so I'm saying all that to say, just for us to kind of just be a bit more aware that you can be insensitive about someone's mental state, but the reality is, you're never too sure of when you yourself might have a period of mental distress. That's assuming that whoever's actually watching this now might not be feeling some degree of stress. Well, I wish you well in that regard. And I just want to say, as a form of reassurance before I wrap this up, that mental health, or should I say sanity, is really an aspiration. No one should ever forget that. It's very easy to make the assumption that, for example, some people would say speaking to yourself is weird, but I personally believe that most people do speak to themselves in one way or another. I guess that's a topic for another sort of upload, but the point I'm making, that there is seen as a pathology, right? But to varying degrees, you can argue that most people do talk to themselves, or even if you take it out from the concept of talking to themselves, many people have certain deviant tendencies. Let's just call it what it is. So, and that's okay. So really, I look at it almost a bit like, I guess it's not entirely the same, but a religious dogma. Think of any Christianity, Islam, this one, that one, that one, this one. There's a certain standard of conduct and, ways of going about things that you're supposed to emulate. But we know that we're all imperfect individuals. And so at times beating oneself up is probably not the best way of doing things. So it has to be treated as an aspiration, something to strive towards. And bringing it back onto the topic of mental health before I actually close out, there are going to be many triggers that are going to lead to people having challenged mental health. It could be a relationship breakup, it could be work politics, racism, gender discrimination, just whatever, bullying of one form or another. And I just want to say, well, besides saying I wish you well, just to keep in mind that moments of fallibility, we're all kind of subject to them. Try to make this a bit shorter than it is, sort of coming up to sort of 7.5 minutes. But again, thank you for listening to me. Please drop your likes, your comments, feedback. I'd love to hear it. Wish you well. Have a great weekend. Until the next time.